My name is Binti Hamisi. I'm an occupational therapist at ANH. Um, I'm happy to be here today. We are celebrating our occupational therapy month, which is the month of October. We have different several activities that we have planned, especially for the occupational therapy, which uh, will be celebrated on 27th. That is the occupational therapy day in the world. So the purpose of this webinar is to celebrate the occupational therapy, as well as we want to focus on the theme of this year worldwide, which is occupational therapy for all. And due to this, I would like to introduce to you a series of presentations that today we are presenting, then it will continue next Wednesday. And the series is on occupational balancing occupation for optimal performance at work. During the presentation, if you have any questions, you can direct it to the Q&A section in the presentation. As I said that occupational therapist in ANH, here in ANH, we offer different services in our occupational therapy unit. This includes sensory integration for the children with or even adults with sensory modulating issues. We also train developmental milestones to children who have either delayed attaining or rehabilitated. We also have a section we call physical dysfunction section. There we do hand function rehabilitation. We also do lymphoedema management and scar management. We also work with patients who have neural issues. We also do driver's assessment and rehabilitation for those who have been driving or it is their occupation to drive, but maybe due to some limitations, they are not able to do that. So we do assessment, and also we do rehabilitation just in case the patient needs rehabilitation before going back to driving. We also do different assessments, including home assessment, workplace assessment, and school assessment. And this is to make sure that everybody performs well we also work with patients who have issues with oral motor skills, and this includes maybe swallowing, chewing, even articulating words, and also doing the small tasks that we do when we are eating, like using a straw, eating, and so forth. We also work, we do speech facilitation for those who have either impediments in their speech or they are not assigned, for example, the children who have maybe delay in speech. We also do functional capacity evaluations, and we also recommend, and this is especially for those who are going back to work. Then we also do functional learning assessment, where we do recommendations for, like, for example, children with disabilities who are going to sit for national examination. We do recommendations so that they can get the required assistance possible. And we also do mental health. We deal with patients with mental health issues, as we all know that mental health issues can also affect our day-to-day activity. So we have a section with mental health to help these patients to go back to their day-to-day activities. At this point, I want to invite my colleague, Mr. Mickey Baron, who will take us through the first series on balancing occupation for our optimal also ask and learn from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Binti. I don't know if my sound is clear. Some people are saying our sound is not clear. So please, if we are audible enough, please let us know on the Q&A section so that we can start. We do not want to leave anyone behind because this is one of the most important topics that greatly affects us as healthcare workers and also in the general community. Milka says the sound is okay, so I'll start. Allow me share my screen. Let me share my screen now. So today's topic is quite interesting because you are going to see the roles of OTs when it comes to occupational balance and how healthcare workers are going to benefit from this lecture that we're having, or rather this sensitization. My name is Mickey Baron. I'm a clinical occupational therapist, meaning I work in a clinical setup like Kenyatta National Hospital. And I will be able to take you through the occupational balance for optimal performance to healthcare workers. Number one, we have some trending issues that are going on in the country currently, affecting a lot of healthcare workers. We've heard of suicide cases. We've heard of work absenteeism. We've heard of abscondment of duties. We've heard of unhealthy behaviors that most healthcare workers indulge in. And because of this, we have taken up this role as occupational therapy, Kenyatta National Hospital, to sensitize the general public and the healthcare workers on the importance of occupational balance. For example, we had a case of an intern committing suicide. She was found in a balcony where she was found dead. And when investigations were being done, it was found out that she was working long hours shifts and she wasn't able to, rest and even eat and even sleep optimally. And because of this, as the occupational therapy department, we saw it wise that it is high time that the general public know that as occupational therapists, we offer this unique service. And we are just going to talk about what occupational balance is. And occupational balance is the individual's satisfaction with the amount and variation of occupations. It means you need to be okay with the various activities that you're engaging in. As we are going to continue with our lecture, we are going to see what occupations are and what are these various activities that we are to do, which we are going to discuss in our next series, which we are going to do so that we feel satisfied with the way we operate our lives. So basically, when you see somebody or an individual having an occupational balance, it means the individual is always happy, is always satisfied with the activities and the demands that life brings up to him or her. So these are some of the features that you're able to see if somebody has a good occupational balance. So occupational balance is not stationary. It is dynamic in nature. It means as we continue living life, as we continue developing and building ourselves, our priorities always change, our goals change, our obligations change, and even our aspiration changes. So as you continue, as you grow, it means that you need to always reevaluate your occupations so that at least we have that balance. And if you get to a point that you cannot figure out your life, you cannot figure out your daily activities, you feel like there is something amiss, then of course, as occupational therapy department here at Kenyatta National Hospital, we are always open to assist and to do proper assessment. We'll just follow the occupational therapy process. So we are talking about occupational therapy. Why occupational therapy in occupational balance? Why, as occupational therapists, why are we taking this role? And as I began earlier on, number one, we said that as occupational therapists, we realized that there is a gap in the country that are affecting our healthcare workers, that are affecting our work productivity, and now we needed to come in. So occupational therapy will enable people to participate in the activities of daily life. It doesn't matter if you are suffering from any illness that causes your occupational imbalances, but with occupational therapy, you're able to participate in all activities. So occupations are what an individual, as a person, as Mickey Baron, what I would want to do, or as a group of people, maybe you're in a church setup, you're in a community setup, and there are some projects that you want to do for the church or as a group. There are projects that, or there are things that you need to do as an individual. And for example, the things that you need to do, you need to figure out your life. You need to make ends meet. You need to live an optimum well-being life. Or there are things that you're expected to do. Most of us, we have different roles and different obligations in the society. For example, if you're a father and you have a family, you are expected to take care of your family, provide for your family, provide for the basic needs. You're also expected to also cater for your own needs, personal needs. So these are just things that we were born with, and life just threw it to us, and we are supposed, or we are expected to do. So occupational therapists, we may modify your occupation. Modifying your occupation, that is after you've gone through the occupational therapy process, we've already done the assessment and we've seen the need for intervention. When it comes to the need of intervention, in our next series, Binti is going to talk about what are the various techniques that we're supposed to use to at least promote occupational balance. So occupational therapists, we might modify occupation if we see that it does not promote your functional independence, just to better support your occupational engagement. So all of us, we need to participate and we need to engage in our day-to-day activities. So according to occupational therapists, occupational balance is a satisfying pattern of daily activities. These activities, they should be healthful. They should promote good health and good well-being to an individual. It must be meaningful. When we say meaningful, it must make sense. It must have that, the individual has to have an interest in performing certain activities, and then the individual is supposed to sustain the various occupations or the various patterns in a day so that it suits or it fits in the context of the person or the individual. So why occupational therapy? occupational therapy, we focus on occupations. It means we are experts when it comes to prescribing the right occupational activities that fits, or rather that promotes, functional independence. So we are talking about occupations, and you said occupations are things we need to do, we are required to do, and we are expected to do. So an occupational therapy categories, one of the things that we are expected to do as maybe parents, number one, who are healthcare workers, is education. We need to educate our children. We need to offer quality and rightful education to our children or our relatives. If you're a healthcare worker and you know you are the breadwinner, you need to have your occupations in order. So we have rest as an occupation. As a healthcare worker, you need to get time. We're going to discuss all this. Binti is going to discuss it so well in the next series. You need to have your rest. You need to sleep. There is some mental health, some mental implications or mental benefits when you have good sleep and good rest. We look at health management as healthcare workers. Sometimes we do forget about our health and we primarily focus on our clients because most of our cadres are client-centered. It means we give our all to our patients, forgetting how we feel or how healthy or not healthy we are. Which also now we are going to discuss on how you're going to, what are these signs that you're going to realize that, oh, my health might not be okay, I might not be feeling well. We are going to discuss as we continue with this segment. We also, one of the occupations, we're also going to talk about work, the productivity. We are going to see how productive you are, because of course, productivity comes with economical implications. You need to sustain your life. You need to sustain a certain way of living, your habituation, your habits. You need to look at your interest at work, the way your performance capacity, the performance skills that you are engaging at work. And also we are going to look at the instrumental activities of daily living. When we are talking about instrumental activities of daily living, these are complex activities that requires a certain sequence. For example, like shopping. We have a lot of healthcare workers that have long shifts. They have crazy shifts that do not allow them engage in their instrumental activities of daily living. As I've said, we have shopping, we have financial management. You find most healthcare workers seeking a lot of financial advices. Well, I have news for you. As occupational therapy department, as OTs, we are well equipped when it comes to giving out the right interventions when it comes to instrumental activities of daily living. It doesn't matter if you have household management issues because you're busy at work, you don't have time for your family because of your shifts. As occupational therapists, we are going to walk the journey with you to show you the light at the end of the tunnel. And then we have activities of daily living. Activities of daily living, these are just basic activities of daily living. For example, we're going to talk about them, the self-care, bathing, grooming, and all that. And then we will also talk about leisure. This is one of the categories of occupations that most healthcare workers do not engage in or do not indulge in. And if they tend, or if they want to indulge in this kind of activities, then we are going to discuss the unhealthy behaviors. So we are going to discuss all that. We see which is a healthy leisure activity, which is not the advisable leisure activity that you're supposed to engage in as an healthcare work, an healthcare worker. And then we have social participation. everything that we're talking about here, we're talking about crazy work shifts, engagement at work. You get to find out that your social aspect will be affected. Most of the healthcare workers have lost friends because friends expect you to join them in certain social interaction activities. But because of your schedules, your routine, it could be that you do not know how to balance your occupations. That is why perhaps maybe you're losing friends. And thanks to occupational therapy that we have a solution for you. That's why we've begun this series. We also talk about play. When you're talking about play, occupational therapist, we look at play in terms of, we're looking at children and the pediatric population. The main occupation of a child is play. And play has a lot of benefits to a child. It has psychological benefits, it has physical benefits. And as a healthcare worker who perhaps maybe you are a newly recruited healthcare worker, you have a young family, and you do not have time for your baby, for your child. Then, as occupational therapists, we are here to educate you, to sensitize you that play is very important. If your working schedules are crazy and you don't get time to interact or to play with your child, you are allowed to come to occupational therapy department so that you get an occupational therapist who is able to assess your situation, is able to come up with the right intervention to aid your child in engaging in play. So we are going to talk about all this as we continue with this series. So just please stay tuned, and you will be able to understand how occupational balance comes in. So why occupational therapy in occupational balance? We're still continuing. Occupations create balance in our life. It means you know what you need to do at a specific time, for how long you're supposed to do it, and how are you supposed to engage in that certain activity. So we have individuals' needs. Everybody has their own needs, their own preferences, and their own capabilities. So we might not be the same when it comes to what we view as individuals as an occupational balance. So most healthcare workers, they tend to compare their lives with others. They tend to compare how they carry out their occupations, their daily occupations, with their fellows. And this is not so. This is not supposed to be so. Because remember, we are exposed in different contexts. Binti is going to explain profoundly how we are different from others. So your occupations, your various activities are different from your colleague. So the balance between occupation is positively related to personal health. We are going to talk about the health implications as we continue. It is also related to your happiness. Happiness is paramount. Happiness brings about peace. Happiness brings about good mental health status and well-being. So if you have a well-balanced occupation, then you are able to survive with the stressors that life has to bring to you as a healthcare worker. You are able to look at your personal health, and you are able to focus on what really matters to you. So we want to talk about, we've talked about the occupational balances that we have, what occupational balance is. So we want to look at what happens when there is an occupational imbalance. Occupational imbalance means your various occupations, you're looking at your life as a healthcare worker and you're figuring out, I do not have enough time for myself. I do not have enough time for my family. I do not have enough time for my friends. I do not have time for my personal growth. I do not have time to have an optimum or good sleeping patterns. So what happens when everything seems chaotic, everything seems not going into place? Number one, you're going to experience a burnout. We are going to talk about burnouts as we continue with our lecture. We look at stress, the psychological stress implications of you not having a balanced occupation. We are going to look at the unhealthy activities that various healthcare workers, of course, both even in the counties, it doesn't matter the level that you are in, the unhealthy activities that you indulge in. We are also going to look at the sleeping, rest of all time. It means we are going to look at, there are those people who find themselves tired every time, resting every time. We are going to discuss on that. We're also going to discuss on absenteeism from work. So the first point, we start with occupational burnout. I know most healthcare workers did not know that in occupational therapy, we have something known as occupational burnout. I know most of the healthcare workers are not informed of how a burnout looks like. And that's why we are here. That's why I'm here, to educate you about this. So a burnout is an occupational phenomenon resulting from, number one, we have chronic workplace that has not been successfully managed. A chronic workplace stress would be, perhaps maybe you are understaffed. You are understaffed in your department. And remember, when you are taking the Hippocratic oath, you said that you are going to serve every individual. So due to this, due to the understaffing, your work becomes a lot and stressful, because you need to jog around, you need to see a lot of patients. If you are a nurse and you're working maybe in accident and emergency unit, maybe you're understaffed. And because these are very critical cases that are coming in, and you are required as a nurse to be at your best when it comes to working. But because you're understaffed, you may feel that you are exhausted, you have low energy levels, you feel like you cannot continue anymore. Another characteristics of a burnout, you will have an increased mental distance from your job. It means you wake up in the morning, you do your self-care, you bath, you take care of your family, you come to work, but you lack the volition, you lack the intrinsic motivation of you going to work. You just feel like physically I am there, but mentally I am not here. I am tired. I'm exhausted. I cannot continue. So these feelings, they turn to be a form of a negative implication in terms of you will start having a lot of negativism. Your speech, you'll start complaining. You will start not being satisfied with your work, or rather with the way you are performing your various occupations or your various activities at work. You also have a reduced professional efficacy. Because of course, if you're stressed, you're tired, your energy is depleted, you're exhausted, of course, your service delivery will be affected. And when it comes to managerial point of view, this won't be good to your managers, to your supervisors. So if you are experiencing a burnout, you need to visit the occupational therapy department located at the old tower block, and we'll be able to assess your situation and do proper recommendations. The other occupational imbalance, we have the occupational stress. The other stress that you have an imbalance occupation is that you're stressed. So stress is a normal reaction to everyday pressure, but can become unhealthy when it upsets your day-to-day functioning. Of course, life has a lot of things. A lot of healthcare workers are really worried about the economy. They're really worried about how life is becoming tough. And so when you are engaging in a certain occupation, and number one, you are feeling a burnout, you do not have the motivation to continue with the work. And then also we have this stress life, the economical implications, the tough economical times that we are living in right now. If you do not balance your occupation well, if you do not manage your stress very well, then it is going to upset the way you carry your day-to-day activities. So stress involves changes affecting nearly every system of the body, influencing how people feel and behave. So stress has a lot of implications when it comes to affecting the nervous system. When we're talking about the nervous system, of course, we're talking about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So the way the system operates, the way the system processes information, the way the brain modulates certain inputs, it can be motor input, it can be sensory inputs, this process will be affected because an individual is stressed. So you need to visit the occupational therapy department, because as a healthcare worker, if you do not have a healthy system, if you do not have a healthy system, Of course, this is going to affect how you behave. It affects how you behave, how you perform your job. For example, you are an orthopedic technologist. We know orthopedic technologists are skilled in making assistive devices, of course. And this kind of activities require a lot of physical strength, power, and ability. So if an orthopedic technologist is stressed and the processing aspect has been affected, the nervous system has been affected, of course, this officer will not be able to perform his obligations, his job description, that will lead to poor performance at work. And remember, if you have poor performance at work, we have implications that comes with that. You will face a disciplinary committee. You might be sacked from your job. But remember, before you get to this point of being sacked or being laid off from your work, there is a solution. There is occupational therapy. And that's why we were quite personal with our healthcare workers here at Kenyatta National Hospital and the county hospital. Even those healthcare workers that are in the periphery. We are concerned because, number one, you do not know that occupational therapy is in your hospital. We have officers, occupational therapists who are officers in your healthcare facility that are able, that are skilled, that are equipped with the necessary skills to aid you in promoting your occupational balance. So stress contributes directly to psychological and physiological disorders. You can be stressed, you can be at work. You can be at work and perhaps maybe you've experienced a certain unpleasant stimuli, an unpleasant experience. If you continue being stressed about this, you might develop the post-traumatic stress disorders that are there, which is a mental health issue. And if you're able to manage this before even you get to that level, it will be better. We will promote your functional independence. Number three, we have occupational boredom. Occupational boredom is a psychological condition that reflects a real life situation in which we are not engaged by the activity we are performing or by the environment that surrounds us. So this is seen when a healthcare worker or an officer has lost the morale to continue working because of perhaps it can be monotonous. There's that monotony that is there. It could be the working environment that brings out the boredom. But of course, we have occupational therapists to help you out. So you'll be able to see, oh, you find most healthcare workers are complaining. The time is really slow. They can't focus on one activity. The other activity you have unhealthy activities. Unhealthy activities, we have a lot of healthcare workers who abuse substance. We have a lot of alcoholics, a lot of healthcare workers across the country that are alcoholic, that are smoking, that are using bang, that are using cocaine and many other substances. We have healthcare workers who indulge in risky sexual behaviors. Of course, when you talk about substance use, it comes with the risky sexual behaviors. Risky sexual behaviors, you find most healthcare workers involving themselves in unprotected sex. And then we have healthcare workers gambling. We have healthcare workers that because of their unhealthy activities, for example, they are really into a certain, they're really addicted to a certain substance that leads to theft at workplace. And you know the implications of theft at your workplace, you can lose your job. We also have sleeping and resting. Most healthcare workers, as I've talked about, they do not have time to rest or to sleep because of their working schedule. So you will find most healthcare workers on my right, on my left, you can see there's a healthcare worker beside a patient's bed. But the healthcare worker looks tired and exhausted. We have a certain healthcare worker sleeping. We have various healthcare workers who have various roles. Some are managers, some are into administration. But because their work is quite involving, they do not get time to sleep and rest. So if you have an occupational imbalance, there is also absenteeism. And you know very well that your employer does not condone absenteeism. And if you are absent, you might lose your job, of course. So some of the areas that we will find out that most healthcare workers are absenting themselves. Number one, most of them will take a lot of leave. They'll have a lot of leave requests. I want to go to the staff clinic. I feel I'm tired. I have a burnout. Yet there is occupational therapy to help you out. So what causes this occupational imbalance? Number one, not having enough occupations to engage in, resulting into boredom. Number two, having too many occupations to keep up with, resulting into a burnout. So both variables, having too much to do or too little to do, will affect your occupational balance. So when you're talking about occupational balance, we just want to look at the overview. We want to look at occupational areas. And I'll just go straight. We have productivity, we have self-care, sleep and rest, leisure. Number two, we have in relations to the aspect of health. And this is what I was talking about previously. We're looking at your physical health. We're looking at your mental health, your cognitive abilities. We're looking at your social health. Number three, we look at in relations to occupations with different characteristics. There are those occupations that are strenuous. They require a lot of energy. There are those occupations that are restful in nature. Number four, we have in relation to performance. Performance means, do you choose as an individual, are you intrinsically motivated to choose to perform a certain occupation, or are you obligated to do it? And then in relations to time use. So productivity, self-care, and leisure. When we're talking about productivity, productivity includes employment that is very key to keep your life moving, running. We talk about education. We also talk about self-care that includes eating, feeding, drinking healthy, grooming, just basic self-care. And then we have leisure. Leisure activities that we enjoy doing, such as we have most healthcare workers are singers outside here. You see them having YouTube channels. They have TikToks. They are doing TikTok challenges. And then we have some healthcare workers who really love series. They love watching movies and just chilling in the house. And then we have sleep and rest. So it is important to balance your productivity, your self-care, your leisure, and your sleep, rest. If you overdo a certain component, you're going to experience an imbalance. So if you have any issue, if you have any difficulty figuring out how these components can be synchronized well, please visit us at our occupational therapy department. It is at the tower block. You will be helped. So when you're looking at the aspect of health, we're looking at the physical, occupations or the physical health. We're talking about the activeness. These are activities that requires you to be active and engaged. For example, we have occupational therapists. Occupational therapists work in a section called the sensory integration section. Sensory integration section really involves a lot because it involves the neurodivergent children or even adults that require proper sensory integration so that they can engage well in their various occupations. And then we have activities that are in activeness. For example, these are activities we have like the laboratory technicians that are always in their labs. They're always seated, glued on their machines, on their laptops. So such activities does not involve a lot of engagement and a lot of, energy constraining activities. And then we have social health. When you're talking about social health, we're talking about the healthy social health and unhealthy social interactions. Earlier on, when we looked at the components of occupations, we looked at leisure. And under leisure, we talked about healthcare workers interacting with their fellows, their friends back in their neighborhood. So we have certain social interaction behaviors that are not healthy. For example, you are a healthcare worker and you have friends and colleagues who they spend a lot of money, they don't have any financial planning, they do a lot of partying, clubbing. So when it comes to you as a healthcare professional, you check at how are my friends? Is my interaction healthy? Is it beneficial to me as an individual? Some healthy social interaction activities, of course, Binti is going to give us those examples. We have healthcare departments that have team building activities. They go for hiking and so forth and so on. And then we have mental health. When looking at mental health, we're looking at the thought, that is the thought content, the thought processes. We're looking at our emotions, we're looking at our moods, the affects, and the behaviors that comes with the implication of an occupational imbalance. So we need to balance the three aspects of health. That is the physical health, that is the social health, and the mental health. If you miss one, then you're going to experience something called an occupational dysfunction. And that's where now you will need an occupational therapist. Then we have the stressful and strenuous occupations. Stressful occupations includes activities. Restful occupations, include activities such as we have the IT guys in the hospital. We have the human resource. We have the lab technicians. We have psychologists whom their work does not involve much of moving. It involves much of office work, much of sitting down and engaging in a restful position. And then we have strenuous occupations that includes active engagements such as the engineering departments. They are the ones who re-engineer our places, who fix our lights, our equipments. We have the support staff. The support staff involves the officer who cleans your ward, who cleans your department, who makes tea for you. We have the laundry department. Like here at Kenyatta National Hospital, we have the biggest laundry department in the country, and you'll find out that their work is quite tedious. And then we have the orthopedics. We also have the occupational therapists who are really involved in strenuous occupations. So when you're talking about performance, we talk about the chosen occupations. Chosen occupations, these are intrinsically motivated occupations. For example, you're a healthcare worker and you need to specialize in a certain area. For example, in occupational therapy, we have a hand therapy specialist. We have a speech and language therapist specialist in our department. So as a healthcare worker, you will always want to upgrade yourself, to better yourself. The chosen occupation you should be passionate about. It should be about your strengths. But when it comes to the obligatory occupations, things that you are required to do no matter what, the roles that you're supposed to do no matter what, no matter come rain or sunshine, you're supposed to do it. I'll give an example. We have physiotherapists who are doing hydrotherapy. You can find maybe a physiotherapist who has a chondroplasia, also known as dwarfism, being placed in a certain area. And the kind of clients that he or she is getting, the kind of client the officer is getting are huge when it comes to body mass. They are taller than him or her. Their body mass is big and huge. So when it comes to these physiotherapists, the physiotherapists really strain a lot to offer these rehabilitative services. So in relations to time, we are looking at routine. Your routines, these are things that you've planned. These are things that you have scheduled for. How do you manage your time? What are the habits? What are these habitual or other habits that you're involving yourself in? Are your occupations not meaningful, that leading to time wastage and all that? And just to wrap up, just a reflection. As we know that Madam Binti here is going to take us through the next segment next week, that is on the 26th. It will be on a Wednesday, 2 to 3:30 p.m. So make sure you tune in. And as we exit this webinar, I need you to reflect on the following questions. Please rate your current level of occupational balance in the areas that we've discussed right now. Look at how satisfied are you with your current balance of occupation. Number 3, we look at what are the things stopping you from engaging in your occupations the way you want to. So please make sure you go reflect on this. And if you find that there is some mishap somewhere, you are always allowed to visit us at our occupational therapy department. As I said, we are located at the tower block, just opposite blood transfusion unit. You will be able to be helped. And I think that is the end of my presentation. So we are up for questions. Asila says, can we have medical human resource in all medical working institutions? Of course, all medical institutions have the human resources department. They're the ones who do recruitment and they deploy the various healthcare workers in their various duty stations. Of course, all healthcare facilities are required to have a human resource department. Can stress lead to insomnia? Stress can lead to insomnia. Remember, it has a psychological implication. And if psychologically you are disturbed, then automatically your sleep and rest as an occupation has been affected. So that's why you need to see an occupational therapist as soon as yesterday for proper evaluation and assessment. So I think those are the questions that we had or that we have in our Q&A chat box. Mine is just to say thank you very much for listening. And I can't wait to see you during our next series. That is next week, Wednesday, same time, still expanding on occupational balance, because this is a gap that we've seen in the healthcare field, or rather in the healthcare sector. And occupational therapists are supposed to be involved. So thank you very much. And I think I'll usher in my colleague, my good friend Binti, to take it up from here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and for listening to us. As I had said in the introduction, but I was told that some of you were not hearing. So we are celebrating Occupational Therapy Month, and the theme for this year is Occupational Therapy for All. And as my colleague has said that we've been focusing on our clients, but this year we want to focus on our colleagues, healthcare professionals. So I want us to go and reflect on the questions as well as the areas that we are supposed to balance our occupations. As my colleague has said, we need to balance between productivity, self-care, sleep and rest, and leisure. That is one area that we are supposed to balance. The other area is we need to balance our aspects of health. So every day you need to balance between your physical health, mental health, and social health. Then the other area that we need to balance on is on the different characteristics of our occupations. So when you are working in a strenuous occupation, you need to balance between restful activities and strenuous occupations. And also in relation to performance, we need to balance between the occupations that we are obliged to do and what we like doing. Like for example, if you are a specialist in mental health, you should balance that with maybe if you are called to do something else like training milestones on children who have regressed or have delayed. So as an occupational therapist, you are supposed to balance between what you are passionate at doing or what you are specialized at doing, as well as the other areas that maybe you are not specialized in, or any other professional should be able to do that. For example, you can be called to do IT in your department, maybe if you have passion about that, and at the same time, maybe you're a technology. So you are supposed to balance between what you like or what you are specialized in and the one that you are just obliged to do. Then the other area is about time. We need to manage our time well, because if we don't manage our time that is well, our days are not balanced, or our occupations or our areas of performance are not balanced, which will lead to so many negative factors or effects that my colleague has already said. Thank you so much. Welcome for the second series that will happen on 26th of October this year, for the intervention part of it. So when you have occupational imbalance, what next? What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? Or how are you going to balance your life, human being, as a healthcare worker, and maybe a parent and a friend and all those. Thank you.